I'm Jaliya. So in this session, what we're going to be talking about is we are going to talk about how we can improve developer productivity and code quality with GitHub. Right, so this is our, This is our agenda. So first, we are going to have a look at this nice tool called GitHub CoPilot. I'm not sure whether some of you might have already using it. And then let's have a look at GitHub Advanced Security features. And the first one is for basically improving the developer's productivity, I would say. And the second one is for improving the code quality and the security of the code, basically. Okay, I think I had a animation on, but that's fine. So GitHub CoPilot is basically an AI-based pair programmer. So if you are coming with Visual Studio background, I'm sure you have used Intellisense and IntelliCode. So to give kind of a refresh, Intellisense is basically, it's going to give you a list of items based on where you are. And IntelliCode is kind of like, Intellisense is there, I think, since the day I started programming. IntelliCode was introduced like a couple of years back. It's AI-based. And it's not going to just give you the list of items, but it's going to suggest you, based on your context, what's the most appropriate member that you are, most likely the member that you are going to be using. So, and the GitHub CoPilot brings takes the things into whole different level. Supported languages are Python, JavaScript, TypeScript, Ruby, Java, Go, and there's more languages being added. C# is there, T-SQL is there. So let's have a look at how it works on the demo. And it's available as an extension. So if you are using one of these IDEs, that is Visual Studio Code, Visual Studio, JetBrains IDEs like Rider and NeoVim, you can get it installed. You can get the extension installed into your IDE and get the things going. So up until last Wednesday, it was on public preview. So it was there for like an year for developers to test it out and for GitHub to test it out. So, but unfortunately now you have a 60-day trial period, and after that 60-day trial period, if you opt into monthly charging option, you are going to get charged $10 per month. If you are opting for annual billing, it's going to be $100 per year. Okay, so I think before moving the demo, I think it's important to know how GitHub CoPilot started. So it started with a company called OpenAI, founded by Elon Musk, and then Microsoft back in 2019, if I'm not mistaken, got into strategic partnership with OpenAI. And then, like maybe last year, they have built a AI model called GPT-3, which is mainly for natural language tasks. For an example, let's say I'm feeding it a book, and we can ask for things like, okay, give me a summary of the book. Let's say the book has 80 pages, and he's going to give us that model is going to give us like maybe like 1-page summary with entirely different sentences. It's not copy pasting from here and there. It's going to give its own summary. And I have seen another example that is, we are describing an image, and then that model is basically drawing the image based on what we are saying. So that model is called GPT-3, and then some clever guys at GitHub or Microsoft, I'm not sure, so has thought, okay, well, if we can do these type of things, why can't we write code? So that's where this model called Codex introduced. So that's what is being used by GitHub CoPilot. So, okay, now it's the demo time. So maybe I'll start with Visual Studio Code. Here I have I have signed up for, I have the GitHub CoPilot extension installed. I'm just gonna hide this one. So maybe let's say I'm new to JavaScript, and I want to create an Express application, right? And I don't know nothing much. I want to create an Express application. So I will create a new file, JavaScript, and let's say, okay, what am I? My requirement is I want to create an Express application. Look at that. I mean, if you see, it's okay. So it's suggesting some code. So I'm going to require Express, and it's initializing a variable. And then let's say I want to run, if I run the application on port 3000. I didn't even got a chance to complete what I want. So it's listen 3000. Let's say I want to see. I mean, I'm hardly writing any code here. So, and all looks good. I mean, we are not sure whether it's compiling or not. I hope it is. And now let's say we want to show what is that? Our favorite, developer's favorite page, hello world. So let's say, I mean, okay. So it's like he's listening to me. So, okay, so I just have to tap. I don't have to do anything basically. So that's basically like the power of GitHub CoPilot. I mean, if it's entirely different from what you are used to with Intellisense or IntelliTrace. So now let's see whether, I mean, okay, GitHub has suggested some codes. Now let's see whether it works. So I'll save this file, maybe my favorite folder, desktop, and give this one a name. So I'll just navigate to what was that, demos, I guess. So since I'm using, I mean, Express, I need to install the package. So I'll just quickly, I mean, that one is not going to be done by CoPilot. Okay, so now something is running on 3000. I'll just open this. Oh, look at that. So it works. I didn't write any of the code. It's just I wrote only what my requirement is on the comments. So, and he just did it. And now let's say, okay, so JavaScript we are fine. So this one we just use the comments. So let's create a new one, another demo, and this time I'm going to use Python. Python is one of the languages which has first class support. Here, let's say, I mean, I'm going to create a method to get the weather by location. So I don't know much about Python. I only know the def keyword, and say I want to get weather. Look at that. So it's using some API. So I can have a look at what other suggestions it provides.
Specific means some predefined methods are there, or it can be for everything. For example, like weather, location, some common terms.
So okay, so it's how it's got this model is working on. It's trained on the code which is available on GitHub, on public repository, not your private repositories. So based on so maybe I'll show you how it works in the next slides.
Yeah.
So here, okay, so this one is basically to see whatever the suggestions that GitHub provides. I'll show it in a later demo. Now let's say, okay, so here interesting facts is this app ID is kind of like a masked value. I'm just gonna replace it with something that I have. And let's say check whether by location or not London. So I'll say Auckland, and then let's run this. So look at that. So that code again is working, and so it has imported all the things, and it's calling some API. I just needed to add the key. Of course, you are not going to be getting the keys, and it's just getting the response and transferring it. So here I have only written comments, but here I didn't write a comment. I just gave a method an explicit name, right? It's kind of a best practice when you are writing a method name. You just want to be explicit. I mean, if I do like okay, there's some method, and maybe GitHub CoPilot is going to go down. So I mean, my method doesn't make any sense, right? So now, so that's nice. So we had a look at JavaScript and Python, and then here I have Visual Studio .NET 6 application. So it's just, these are just boilerplated code. I mean, I just went to create a new web API application, and this is what came up. And this time I'm going to write a .NET kind of application. You can think of it as a microservice with entire CRUD operations interacting with the database using GitHub CoPilot. And let's see how far GitHub CoPilot can assist me, right? Maybe I mean, I might end up writing the whole code. Let's see how it goes. I mean, we can't predict because it's based on how GitHub CoPilot works. If for some reason the service goes down, I'm going to be in trouble over here. So, okay, let's say some common example is to-dos. So let's say we need to maintain our to-dos. So what I'm going to write a comment. Create a to-do class, and then I'm going to start writing. It created class and with some properties. So these are the properties which a to-do class is likely going to have. And then let's say I want to use entity framework to interact with the DB. Create to-do DB context with maybe EF, and then a public class. So okay, now he has created the class deriving from DB context, and is exposing to do as DB set. If you're not coming with the .NET background, so you can think of this as a table. So it knows, okay, I'm creating a to-do DB context, and look at that. I had a capital case over here, but in the class it's not. So I'll make it look nice, and it's exposing to-dos as a DB sets because I said, okay, create a to-do DB context with DF. Now let's say we need to have different endpoints: get, all, get, post, put, delete. So those are basically CRUD operations, right? Usually microservices likely would have. So now let's say create an endpoint to get to-dos, and let's start writing map get, and okay, suggesting some code, but a lot of code, but I don't want to use that. So I can have a look at all the suggestions that GitHub CoPilot suggests me, but there are shortcuts. So okay, so these are the things that GitHub has suggested me based on where I am. So maybe I'll just go ahead with this one. Maybe I don't like any of these. I will continue writing. To-dos. So I want to inject to-do DB context. So here we want to query the DB and get all the results. So okay, he's typing some stuff for me, And let's wait for some time to see. Okay, no suggestions here. That's fine. Okay, so it helped me up to some point. So let's keep on writing. And here I need to get an endpoint to get a to-do. So here, okay, look at that. So he has suggested me, I only type this one. So I'm going to accept it as it is. And let's examine the code. So to-do, I'm passing in the ID and it's injecting the DB context and ID. And look, I mean, this is really smart, right? So it's getting the to-do, and if the to-do is not there, he's returning 404. And if it is there, it's returning the item. Now let's say create an endpoint to what? Oh, look at that. So GitHub reads the context that what you're trying to do. He's reading your file, and if there's associated files, GitHub CoPilot reads those. Now he knows, okay, I'm creating a get, I have a get all, I have a get one. Now I'm likely to create a post endpoint. So let's see whether it's okay. Nothing so far. Okay. So I'm going to accept that solution. So to-dos, okay, I'm passing the context, I have passing what I'm going to create, and here I'll just use await at async, and here it's this looks nice. And now, okay, we have an endpoint to create a to-do, and then the next one is to delete a to-do. Okay, before delete, let's create a update. And let's see whether it's suggesting any code. It is. So he's going to find, so he's passing the parameters. If there's a no existing one, it's going to say, okay, no resource. Else, it's going to update. And here I would say no content instead of returning the updated value. And the next final thing is create an endpoint to delete a to-do. Okay. Let's see for any suggestions. Very nice. He's finding again, if there's not found, else it's returning, deleting the item and returning no content. So just look at that. So there's a lot of code written. I mean, considerable number of lines of code written, but I have maybe written like maybe 5% of the code, right? So all the other code is being done by GitHub CoPilot, and that's being C# is not kind of like in the first level support. It's on the kind of like second level support. So if this one is, if C# is being supported like that, imagine what we can with languages like Python, TypeScript, JavaScript, etc. To complete, so we need to inject, we need to configure the services. I mean, we are using add DB context to do DB context, but we haven't registered that one. Add DB context. Okay, so here, of course, I mean, it's not going to give you like all the time the fully compilable code. So you'll have to know the basic idea to get it fixed up. Now so that's basically the power of GitHub CoPilot. Are you guys impressed? Very cool, and you guys can try it out. So I'm just gonna push this project to a GitHub. I'm not using private repository. I'm doing a public repository, and this is my personal account. If I can type correctly. Okay, so it's pushed, and let's move back to the slides. So now to answer your question, how GitHub CoPilot works, this is your editor, which has the GitHub CoPilot extension installed. So it's providing the editor context. It is usually the preceding lines before where your context is, where cursor is, and it can reference other files. Like let's say the working file is referencing to some other files. It's gonna read the context from there as well, and then it's gonna send that to GitHub CoPilot service, and the CoPilot service is going to provide suggestions. You must have seen that I have like set of suggestions, so I can still accept, reject the one I want, and then when you do that, that response is sending back to the GitHub, so it can improve, right? So and then so this is the codex model that we talked about before, and basically this model has been trained on all the public code and text on the internet, mostly on GitHub public repositories, not your private repositories. So they are not reading your private repositories. And now let's move into the next topic, which is GitHub Advanced Security. So previously we had a look at how we can write productive code productively, and this is how we can make the application secure and the code secure. So GitHub Advanced Security has following features: code scanning, secret scanning, dependency review, and security overview. Code scanning, basically what it does is GitHub is going to check any security vulnerabilities or any code quality issues in your code. It can be timely manner, or it can be when you are creating a PR. And the secret scanning is that's when you are creating a PR again. So if you're mistakenly committing a secret, it can be Cosmos DB connection string, etc. So GitHub is going to tell you, okay, you are committing a secret. And the dependency review, how it identifies secrets is with GitHub. There are different vendors partnered up with, so they have told GitHub, okay, these are the structure of our secrets. So, and if you are a vendor, so you can sign up with the GitHub and say, okay, this is our secret patterns. So if someone is committing the code with this type of text, let us know. So, and the dependency review is, most of the applications that we are writing are depending on third-party packages, and those packages are depending on some other third-party packages, right? So we need to ensure that the packages that we are going to use or we are going to introduce or update is bulletproof. It doesn't have any security vulnerabilities. So that's what dependency review is responsible for. The security always, basically, if you have a GitHub enterprise account and you have multiple repositories, using security overview, we can have a look at the glance of the security over different repositories. And the important thing is some of the features are included in all plans. Some require GitHub Advanced Security license. That is, you need to have a GitHub enterprise account. So, and this is a matrix of which features are available. basically code scanning is available in if it's a personal account, and if your repo is a public repository, code scanning is available. But if in your personal account, if it's not a public repository, you don't basically have advanced security features. But if it's a private repository within an enterprise account, then you have all the features. So here, the important thing is secret scanning. It says in a public repository, it has a limited functionality. The limited functionality is, let's say someone is committing, making a commit with a secret included. You are not going to get a notification. Instead, the vendor who issued that secret is going to get a notification from GitHub saying, okay, someone is committing a secret, is exposing a secret. So the vendor can take whatever the action. So they can either deactivate that secret or contact the repository owner. Now let's have a look at GitHub Advanced Security features where we can find those up. So here, let's refresh this page and see whether I can see the repository. That I have just created. Where's that? Yeah, it's CoPilot demo. So I'm going to the settings tab, and under settings, there's code security and analysis. So there's a bunch of other features that I don't think I have time to go through. But what you are interested is code scanning. Before setting up, the secret scanning is already enabled. This is my personal account, and it's not a paid subscription. It's my personal account, and this one is a public repo. So when I click on setup, so he's gonna ask what is the tool that you need to configure in order for the analysis. Is it the default is CodeQL, or you can use some other third-party library, third-party tools. The CodeQL is one of the nicest tools. So what it does is basically based on your language, it's going to create a database. It's going to split the code into the database, and then we can issue queries. The queries are being written by GitHub engineers, or so there's this repo GitHub as CodeQL. So you can find out the languages it supports, and you can even run these ones locally. So for an example, if I have a look at C#, because that's my favorite language, and go to QL and go to source, and these are the kind of titles, categories of security vulnerabilities. And if we have a look at, let's say, maybe security features, maybe this one is basically responsible for validating. This query is basically for SQL injection. So now let's go back, and let's say I'm going to configure CodeQL alerts. So it's going to create a GitHub workflow, and in the workflow, it has identified what the language is. Maybe let me zoom it up. So it has identified, because I was working on C#, and then it's initializing CodeQL, and the language is based on the matrix language, and then we can set the queries. So you can run the queries. So queries are organized into query packs. Some for an example, security extended is a query pack, and another one is security, and you want to check the security and plus the quality. And then finally run the analysis based on the queries that you have configured. And I'm not going to, I can commit it to the maybe in the master branch, that's fine. And it's going to run for some time. So you can have a look. Yeah. It's going to run. So here, I think I have already a repo with things running. So maybe, so this one, unfortunately, it's not working. There's a bug in the CodeQL side. So this one I won't show you. So here this one, I'm adding a package reference. I'm introducing a new package, but the build has failed. The reason is if I go to full file view, it's gonna say, okay, this package has a high severity of security vulnerability. The patched version is 4.3.4. So a developer who created this PR can update that one. And on that one, so if it's already there, if this PR is already merged, then we have the thing called Dependabot. I'm not sure whether you have seen that GitHub Dependabot, which is responsible for, they will automatically create a PR with the correct version, and you just need to approve the PR. And on the secret scanning, I said secret scanning. So if I go to this repository security tab, I'm not seeing any secret scanning options because this is a public account. Now this is a GitHub enterprise account, thanks to Dan, Microsoft. So here, if I go to security, so in this report, there's no basically code scanning alerts, but here there are code scanning alerts. We can go through the alerts, but it's just checking like code quality checks. And here there's a secret scanning alert saying, okay, someone has committed the code with a secret exposed. In this case, it's Azure, so Microsoft is being notified, but this is dummy secret, so that's fine. And the final thing I want to say is, okay, this security overview. Security overview is basically, so this is for a single repo. That let's say you have you are an enterprise account and you have multiple organizations, and inside organizations you have multiple repos. So with security overview, you can see everything at a glance, like which repositories have the highest security vulnerabilities, etc. So I think I ran out of, I mean, maybe, I'm not sure. So that's basically it. So, and thank you very much for listening. If you have any questions, you can ask now, or I'll be hanging there, hanging around, and you can meet and ask.